Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to RCI TV on a Monday night. It is the penultimate round of the Euro Masters Season 2, and we're out here at a very sunny and a very hot Barcelona in Spain on the coast, and it is Wolf Matuszka's first chance to wrap up the title early. He will have the chance to wrap it up all here tonight. He can avoid going into a title decider at the final round at Spa in a week's time, but he has to get to the end of this race first. Welcome, and my name is Ryan Gill. I have Ryan Borson back alongside me on the Monday night. We had John Dalton out at the Nürburgring, but we've got Ryan Borson back. We have Stewie Hellman behind the cameras as per usual. And Ryan, here we go. 2 races to go. Wolf can wrap it up at this round. Do you think he'll wrap it up at this one?
Well, I mean, looking already at practice, obviously we don't know the fuel loads of any of these drivers, but Wolf's car, 1.1 seconds, just a casual 1.1 seconds ahead of Thibaut Roskam here in the fellow 96 Audi. If anyone's going to do it, it is going to be Wolf, and it does seem Barcelona is a track for the mid-engines. You know, you need that kind of agility dance around, especially in the last sector where anything front engine just kind of flails around. It can't really do the final chicane, love or hate it, as a lot of people do. But I think Pirelli today are going to be absolutely rubbing their hands together with with the prices of tires, because 37 degrees track temperature with that first sector, the left side, are just going to be melted basically.
It is scorching hot out here at Barcelona, and the drivers will be feeling it as well. Wolf absolutely flying in practice, but practice doesn't tell the entire story, and we have seen Wolf Matuszka make mistakes this season. Picked up a drive-through penalty at Paul Ricard, which obviously demoted him out of the podium finishing places last season. Or make a mistake at Spa in the wet, which almost cost him the win of the race. So mistakes can happen, and Marek Vons, when he's had the chance, has been pushing Wolf Matuszka so close for a couple of wins this season. Things could have gone very, very differently in another world, but we are here at Barcelona, and we are here to see if Wolf Matuszka can wrap it up a week ahead of schedule. We'll also have a bit of an announcement towards the end of the stream, as the new Monday Championship, which will be succeeding this one, will be officially opening for business. We'll have a bit more information on that come the end of the race. But as for now, we get towards the end of practice. We see some drivers just starting to reel in those lap times a bit here, Ryan Mawson. And, you know, looking at that time from Wolf Matuszka up there, that's surely got to be hot lap pace at the moment. We don't exactly know what everyone's fuel load is, but surely it's got to be hot lap pace here, you know, just towards the end of practice.
You'd think so. Wolf's a hard driver to read sometimes with how he practices and how he doesn't, but still almost a whole second ahead of the field in these, this sort of temperature. And the track is only fast, that at 44.2. That's nothing to sniff at for some drivers, even on an optimum track at okay temperatures. So yeah, hard to tell. I would say it's definitely a low fuel run, if not, but I don't think it's Wolf's ultimate pace. And also looking down, the other class that we can't forget about, which is always kind of who throws a spanner into the works of guesswork, is the GT4s. Interesting to see that this time it looks like, once again, Verstappen in that 747 Mercedes has managed to put it on provisional pole in practice. So the Mercedes this season has looked incredibly strong, and I would not have called that going into it.
Has definitely looked strong, and Christopher Verstappen sits, I believe, somewhere around 30 points in the lead of the GT4 class at the moment. Has 2 wins, 3 podiums to his name so far this season. As we jump into qualifying, you'll see the GT4 cars come out on the track first. They'll get the first 10 minutes of the session. They'll have the little overlap minutes so they can finish up any laps they started within their session, and then the final 10 minutes be given out to the GT3 cars. But yeah, Christopher Verstappen's done a very, very good job in the GT4 class. He could possibly wrap up the title here today. It's unlikely, given that Martin Ulrich will have something to say about that, I am sure. But, stranger things have happened, and we'll have to see how it all pans out. But very, very excited to watch out how all GT4 cars, play out here, and with the qualifying and the race, they are exciting to watch. We will have some more GT4 action in the very near future, not just in regards to weekly events. Obviously, we have the Thursday GT4 Championship. They'll be returning in the Monday Championship at some point later in the year, but we'll also have a couple of multi-class enduros and GT4 exclusive enduros coming a bit later in the year as well. So if you're into GT4 action, of course, stick around. We'll have plenty of that around the RCI community. But Christopher Verstappen, the first car out on the track and coming towards the end of the lap now, getting ready to go out for that first banker lap. But of course, that first banker lap, which won't really mean much because the tyre won't be up to pressure, and they won't really be in the optimal range that he'll need to try and go for pole position.
But at least for this lap, they will have the GT4s don't have tyre warmers, but I think today I would get rid of them, especially considering that we've said it's hot in practice. It's got even hotter now. It's 40 degrees C out on that track. The Spanish sun has just been baking this track all day, so will definitely help the GT4s get up to the pressures, but we ride on board Christopher Verstappen for the first lap. It's a circuit that divides drivers, I find. Some people really do not like Barcelona, but personally, I think it's a great technical track, albeit one that is absolutely torture on your tyres.
It's a track I have a bit of a soft spot for, having lived in Spain and this being essentially the local track, I guess, closest track to me. So, I have a bit of a soft spot for it. I have my own opinions about the particular layout of some parts of the track. I know a lot of people have some very harsh opinions on that part of the track as well, but, it is a deceiving track. It is much more difficult to drive than, people first give it credit. And that's one of those things that you can appreciate when you do, say, an endurance race around here, or you do a race around here in these kind of conditions. It is a very, very difficult track to master, and a lot of the guys out here today, they'll be familiar with, these kind of conditions at a track like this. It's not too often that, Barcelona finds itself on the hotter end of the spectrum when it comes to races. But you got to get around it all the way. Everyone is in the same boat, and they'll all have to deal with it under the same conditions as well. And Christopher Verstappen doing a pretty good job here, although just a little bit of a slide there. You can just see, Ryan Mawson, that the tyres not too happy, not gripping up to the track as much as he would like, and, well, the absolutely scorching track temperatures here probably have something to do with that.
And also, partly to do with that is the Mercedes, the GT4 car. As much as it shares very much the same driveline with its Aston Martin counterpart, Christopher Verstappen crosses the line at a 154.2. It shares mostly the same powertrain with the Aston Martin, which is a very soft, stable car. But the Mercedes is very, very tail-happy, very twitchy, and also the gearbox ratio seems to be a lot shorter. You can quite easily bash that in, the limiter in 6 in that car.
Well, Christopher Verstappen is the first to cross the line. It's a 154.2 that he will have provisionally on the table, although the drivers having passed over the line now. Nicholas Norquist not having a good lap at all, 4 seconds off of the provisional pole time at the moment. Jordan Daly, who has come around, I do not think he had a valid lap on his first attempt, or is this his out lap? No, his first lap was invalid, so Jordan Daly wasting his first lap, although he won't be bothered too much about that because whatever lap you did on the first time by, you're definitely going to beat it on the second time by unless you make a big mistake. Here is Bart Matcher, who was our race winner out at Paul Ricard in the Audi GT4. One of the brave drivers to take the Audi GT4, as it's particularly well known to be a bit of a death trap. You say, Ryan Mawson, is the safe way to describe the GT4 variant of the GT3 Audi, which already has a fairly dangerous reputation.
Bit of a death trap, yes. It also has a bit of a nasty habit of overheating the brakes, and the brakes just slowly starting to fade away over a stint, which will not be helped when the fact that the ambient is 33, so there's Not much cooling air today for the 404's brakes. I think the ducts will be almost wide open here, not only to try and keep the brakes cool, but just to try and manage tire temperatures. And that's kind of the game that you have to play. Is what is what it will benefit your race more as Bart Matcher once again comes across. That is another invalidated lap. Easy to do at Barcelona, and I know that from experience.
Here comes Nicholas Nordqvist as Calandrino has gone provisional pole for 54.010, almost breaking into the 53s. Nicholas Nordqvist, one of the Alpines that we have around here this evening, goes up and into 6th on their first proper flying lap, around half a second off of that provisional pole at the moment, and we are still awaiting lap times from the likes of Bart Matcher. The moment, he is the only GT4 car that I can see that has not completed a flying lap this session, so Bart Matcher just struggling a bit here as Christopher Verstappen is up by about a quarter of a second. We'll be looking to take that provisional pole back. They'll have to find almost 4/10 of a second if they're going to take that provisional pole back from Calandrino, who has looked very, very good in multiple qualifying sessions this season. Believe, in fact, Calandrino has 2 pole positions. No, it's only 1, in fact. Only 1 pole position this season, but I'm pretty sure they've been on the front row more than.
Yeah, if I remember, that 120 has often shared the front row of the GT4 field. It seems to be one of the faster Porsches, or the more consistent Porsches that we have in the field. Christopher Verstappen comes round for the final few corners. Going to take all the liberties he can, but that will have cost him time, and actually it has. It's almost now down half a second to get one more flyer crossing under the line just about. And here comes Bart Matcher. Will it be the first time on the board? It will be, but it will be 0.9 of a second off the provisional pole.
So Bart Matcher struggles at the moment in the Audi Continue, but like you said, he will get one more go. And he'll be happy about that as we continue to watch. And there goes Mikael Sundström up into 2nd place in the Alpine. The 899 nearly on pace car. Risked baguettes, as it does on the side of that car. Has done very, very well, Mikael, in the Alpine this season. Sits 3rd in the standings right now. Only 1 podium to his name, but has had a lot of consistent finishes within the top 5, and that has what kept them in that top 3 hunt. They are still in the hunt for 2nd place in the championship. First would be a very big stretch, considering where Christopher Verstappen is right now. But never say never, and Mikael Sundström will keep going along, and he'll be looking for another podium finish here today to put the 2nd one onto his tally for the season. And, just kind of show people out there that, this car, it does struggle in a straight line. But I think Ryan Wilson, from what I know about the Alpine and how it seems to very bizarrely get quicker in hotter conditions, it's the little car that can on this bit.
It's the little car that can, and it's the little car that during battles, you just can never get rid of them. They're always buzzing around some of the bigger cars and, just having some great battles. It's not a car that I would have even picked as one of my go-tos for Barcelona. I would have definitely not said that the Alpine could have done here with that, phenomenal long first straight. And Sector 1 is still a fairly good speed sector, but I guess it's just in the last sector where all the other cars start to struggle, the Alpine just shines and comes into its own.
And as the GT3 cars get ready for their qualifying session, they're going to start lining up at the end of the pit lane. You're waiting to come out as I see Jordan Daly has pulled his car back into pit lane, so his qualifying session is done for the day. Here is Peter Henneberg in one of the BMW M4 GT4s we have out in the field. Klaus Naring is the other one down in 6th place and just trying to work his way through at the moment, gain as much lap time as he can. His efforts up towards the pole position, or the front row of the grid rather, up by 0.3 of a second at the moment. I think they're the only car out there that is still gaining time, so see how that pans out. Svenchek is down by about 0.1 of a second, while Matra is down by almost 0.2 of a second on their lap as well, so it's unlikely that they'll get anything out of their final lap unless they improve significantly. We'll keep watching Peter Henneberg, though, as comes now into the third sector, the tight and twisty part. This is the part the BMW M4 won't particularly like. It loves to stretch its legs on the big straights, and this is where it will start to really show its power. Out of the corner now, onto the long straight. It is a short run to the line, though. Peter Henneberg will cross the line and will go onto the front row of the grid, right towards the end of the session. And as the GT4 session comes to an end, time for the GT3s to get out there and see what they can do. And it is Jarkko Torvinen that heads the field out this time around. For the first time, I think, Wolf Matuszka is not the first car out on track in qualifying.
No, but hot on the heels is that pink Audi, which is a car you can't exactly miss in this grid. Yeah, Jarkko Torvinen. A car as well that I'm going to be keeping my eye on, because both the Lamborghinis and the Audi seem to do incredibly well here with the conditions and with the track. I think it's just more of a mid-engine circuit, so I'm expecting actually quite a close battle between all of them. It's sometimes on some tracks has come down to driver talent that has maybe put, Wolf a little bit away from his mid-engine friends, but I think today they might actually start grouping back up again, unless Marek Vons has anything to say about it. We saw in practice he was a little bit further down, but that could be race pace and GT4 traffic.
It very well could be, and we'll find out as the event progresses tonight. But here is Jarkko Torvinen going around to start their first flying lap. And we'll have a little bit of an onboard for a driver's eye view here. We'll see Jarkko Torvinen in the Lamborghini, which has been one of the more interesting picks for this season. Hasn't been one of the popular picks. The BMW M4 GT3 has definitely been the most popular pick, although has to be said, it is a car that has struggled for results this season. Hasn't got a win to its name, mainly because Wolf Matuszka and Harry Conway have been the ones keeping the BMWs out, and well, Jarkko Torvinen could contribute to that tonight. So we've had a few podiums for the new BMW so far this season, but it is a Audi and a Lamborghini that top the point sheets at the moment for the championship, and one of those very interesting scenarios, Ryan Wilson, where the car that is the majority on the grid doesn't turn out to be the best pick, or just for whatever reason, just maybe doesn't have the right driver to get the most out of it over the course of a season.
Yeah, and when this season signed up, the BMW was the hot new thing, and if you remember, we had to actually put some of our own BOP at the start because the car was just far too strong to battle competitively with a lot of the other drivers. But then after a few patches, and after Kunos fixed some of the, I believe it was actually some problems with the aerodynamics of the car and brake ducts, swing settings, and other small odds and sods, that's brought it back in line of a competitive grid. But when everyone's signed up on it, everyone kind of clumps together, and yeah, some of the regular known cars that people are really experienced in, like Jarkko Torvinen in the Lamborghini, like Wolf Matuszka in the Audi, they've just started to run away with it. And speaking of, 44.9 will be the first to cross the line. What has the Pink Performance got? Pink Performance only has a 45.6.
So Wolf Matuszka about 3/4 of a second off of what Jarkko Torvinen achieved on his first time by. That won't be the last of the laps though, and speaking of the BMWs, they have struggled at a couple of tracks this season. Qualifying in Barcelona on the first time by does not seem to be one of them. Will Stevenson has sent his car to the top of the timing tables on the first time by, 144.6. But you would have to say that the likes of Jarkko Torvinen and Wolf Matuszka, they are not done yet. And we'll see more coming out from both of those drivers towards the end of the session. But the same can be said for the likes of Will Stevenson, Benjamin Schumann, Marek Vons, Andy Boardman. Don't forget John Aracer in there as well. And what can Ethan Scott pull out? The lone Mercedes GT3 that we have on the grid here as well. Be very, very interesting to see how all of that pans out. But it is Will Stevenson at the moment with 5 minutes and 20 seconds left of the session who tops the timing sheets.
And yeah, the poor little lone Mercedes, once again, another car when I remember where that was, very much the car to have in ACC, and that used to top sort of every league going. It was almost impossible to get away from a 20 Merc at one point. Be interesting to see in the race as well, because as much as qualifying it might struggle, front straight here is nothing to sniff at, and if the AMG can really get its spread its wings, that might be one dangerous car to follow. But Wolf Matushka coming round at the final corner, being informed is almost second and a bit up for the big performance. What will it be? It will be a 43.8. That is more like the pace of Wolf.
So Wolf Matuszka goes. Well, he was at the beginning about 3/4 of a second off of provisional pole. Now 3/4 of a second ahead of the previous provisional pole sitter. Martin Lawrence has actually gone out and set a time to put him second at the moment, about half a second off of what Wolf Matuszka has achieved. And Wolf has gone back to the pit lane. I wonder if that is going to be his qualifying session done. He's not going to go back out. Feels that that is the best maybe that he can muster at this time, or maybe he just doesn't want to drive out on 40 degrees track temperature. Either way, the rest of the drivers will keep on going, and we'll have to see what they can pull out at this time. I'm looking around the field right now, Ryan Mawson. Iko Kumpu up on their time by about a quarter of a second, but nobody else making some very, very big gains. Or Carlos Calatia, though, up by 3/10. I can just see to the back end of the GT3 field. So, and my initial assumption is proven wrong, as Wolf Matuszka does come back out, so he will at least get one more lap out here, as the Jarkko Torvinen, who did set the first lap of the GT3 session, now down into 5th place and up by about 2/10 of a second.
I'm wondering if just with the temperatures that Wolf has decided that the actual best strategy for this is not to continue going and just have the tyres, blister and go past their optimum point. It might be that a quick return to the pits, adjust the pressures for a one flyer, go back out again. There might just be a little bit more to give. And speaking of a little bit more to give, Jarkko Torvinen bumps that car up the 703 into 3rd place.
Marek Vons comes across the line and moves up into 8th place. It has not been a great qualifying session for Marek Vons so far, and here is Billy Octane, who's also struggling in qualifying. Has done particularly well in the qualifying sessions and towards the start of the season, but has struggled as of late, and we'll look to see if they can right some of those wrongs here at Barcelona. 2.5 minutes just under of this qualifying session remaining. Billy Octane will jump up to 13th place in the session now, but far off that top 10 that he wants to be in at the moment. Still needs to find about 3/10 of a second to get there right now. Jarkko Torvinen did move up into 3rd place, but still sits about 6.5 of a second off of that provisional pole time set by Wolf. Speaking of Wolf, actually, he has just started his next flying lap. So he does have enough time to go out and do one lap and then one more if he even wants to. So he has 2 laps possible under his belt still. But we'll have to find out and see what Wolf can conjure up. For the rest of the competitors' sake, they'll be hoping that he doesn't go any quicker than he has gone, as we watch Carlos Calatia down in 15th now go around the circuit in his Lamborghini GT3 Huracan. And of course, driving for the very amusingly named Rules and FAQ, which always gives me a chuckle, right?
I mean, it's a channel that you get pointed to quite often. If you message something, it is all there. So Carlos Calation, he knows that. He's just pointing it out. But so far, this lap looking incredibly good for Carlos. I think he's 0.8 of a second up coming into some of the last chicane. If you can hold it a little bit wide off the first apex, then power out round the final corner. This should put him way back into the fight of the top pack. What will it be coming up to the line? There you go. Top 10, just about. And then one more lap to go.
So one more lap to go then, as Carlos Calatia moves up into 11th place. Martin Lawrence has moved slightly closer to the likes of Wolf Matuszka, now just about 4/10 off, but still with a sizable gap between themselves and Wolf. Wolf has not gone faster on this lap around. They're about 2 seconds down, so they've obviously made a mistake somewhere and just preparing now for what will be a final flying effort. They don't know if they need to go faster at all, but of course, if you do go faster, it can remove that doubt from your mind of should you have gone faster at any point in the past. So Wolf Matuszka starts their final flying lap of the session. Martin Lawrence is up on their time by about a tenth of a second. Benjamin Schumann a tenth and a half. Seba Series about 4/10 of a second now. And John Aracer up by 3/10 as well. As we come towards the end of the session, the timer has ticked down. And Martin Lawrence, in fact, did find a lot of time ever so slightly, but he's actually invalidated his lap. I've just seen on the leaderboard, found 3/10 and then just went a bit too far. So Martin Lawrence will not be able to challenge for that time. Jarkko Torvinen is coming back into the pit lane as well. So for Wolf Matuszka, it looks like it is all but done. Will Stevenson will cross the line. No, hasn't crossed the line yet. In fact, he's still going out on his lap. He had a very, very slow lap last time around. Carlos Collaciad up by 0.2 of a second. John Aracer up by 1/4 of a second. We continue to watch on board here with Wolf Matuszka, who's actually not up on his lap time.
Unless there is some time to be given in the last sector, you never really know when you're just trying to shave, those few tenths off of a lap. And there you go, coming through the hairpin, there was a slight time increase. If you can hold it, you can see the car dancing around underneath Wolf. This is how close you have to drive these cars to the edge, especially the Audi, a car that is already unforgiving. Put it in a hot track, hot tires, and you're trying to gain absolutely minute amounts of time. This is what it takes. We're coming through the final corner. It looks like it will be an improvement for the peak performance if he holds it up to the line. And there you go. A 1:43.730 will be the final time on the board.
So Wolf Matuszka takes pole position here at Barcelona and does exactly what they need to be on their way to securing the championship here tonight before we head to the final round at Spa. It will be an all Audi front row. Martin Lawrence alongside them, and then Jarkko Torvinen just in behind with Seba Series second row of the grid, and all BMW third row with Will Stevenson and Andy Boardman, Benjamin Schumann and Nico Kumpu rounding out the top 8, and then Carlos Collaciad and Marek Vons down in 10th. Having a look at the championship standings, here you can see Wolf Matuszka's tally of 208 points. It is a 56-point lead he has over Jarkko Torvinen at this time. And, well, if he puts that, is it 68 points I believe he needs to bring it up to, then that should be enough to secure the championship for him here tonight. Marek Vons in third in the championship, then Billy Octane a few points back on 153. Benjamin Schumann on 124, just ahead of Andy Boardman in 6th place. Then on 112 points, it is Martin Lawrence, who's on the front row of the grid here tonight. Jake Boswell not in attendance this evening. He's on 110 points, just 3 ahead of Nico Kumpu on 107, and John Aracer rounds out the top 10 on Giggly Gaspar is in 11th place with 90 points. Rudy Filmarter, the South African, 84 points just behind. Thibaut Roskam finds himself in a sandwich of BMWs in his lone Audi, 77 points to his name. William Stevenson with 75. Nico Kuizma has 71 points, just a bit back from them. Seba Series with a very good qualifying session here tonight, is on 65 points, tied with Andros Sarka. 47 points for Richard Whittle in the BMW M43, and then Ethan Scott breaks the tally there, just a point behind with the Mercedes AMG GT3 Evo, and then Carlos Collaciad will round out the top 20 GT. And the rest of the grid, the last 5 of Daniel Cermak, Emilio Garcia, Gianni Mass, Martin Batista, and Harry Conway no longer competing in. Onto the GT4s, and here it is. The likes of Christopher Verstappen leads the way, 229 points to Martin Ulrich's 196. Mikael Sundstrom with 171 is just 2 points ahead of Bart Matcher in 4th with 109. Bit of a gap back to Floris Harsford, who sits on 152, with Peter Henneberg on 146, not far behind. And then Fabio Calandrino with 138 is just 2 points ahead. Jordan Daly in the 197. Juraj Svenček has 128 to his name. And Andreas Vick-Auckland rounds out top 10 on 100. back end of the GT4 field. Matthew Kingston Lee on 108, Nicholas Nordquist on 96, just ahead of Klaus Nearing on 92, and Eric Engman, the last point scoring GT4 with 62. Cole Trickle, Phil Roberts, Jesper Eisenfors, and Atabek Ertan no longer participating in. So, with just under 2 minutes to go until the start of the penultimate race of the season, I would say, Ryan Wilson, that it's time to do predictions. But I get a funny suspicion that I already know who your pick for tonight is going to be.
Well, I mean, it's hard to it's hard to put your name on any other car really in this whole season. Every single time that we've said we've thought that maybe that pink performance car might have finally had, a bit of a battle, and might have finally had something to race with. Wolf has just pulled it out of the bag and managed, a phenomenal result even after mistakes and anything else. It's hard to put your money on any other car really. But what I like to bet on is the GT4 category, which honestly, I still don't have any idea how that is going to shape out. I would like to say that the Mercedes of Christopher Verstappen in a race trim could be quite one to watch. I just don't know. Those Porsches do look incredibly strong, especially through the last sector.
Do look incredibly strong, and the GT4 class is going to be the subject of much debate as to how the championship will unfold. Wolf Matishka in the GT3 class has a very, very comfortable gap, would need the likes of a DNF or similar performance to be in danger of missing out championship at this point. Stranger things have happened though. We'll have to keep an eye on it throughout the course of the event, but as you can see, the lights now, Billy Octane giving the drone just a little bit of a flash there as his car gets dropped down off of the jacks, and we prepare to go racing for the ultimate time this season. Nice and early in the morning here at Barcelona, but very, very sunny and very, very hot as it was in practice and in qualifying. Ryan Mawson, you've driven in conditions like these before. What is your key takeaway for this race to getting to the end and keeping yourself in a competitive position?
I mean, keeping yourself competitive is going to be 100% look after those tires. If you let the temperatures run away from you, as in they heat up, and you continue to let them heat up and just get worse and worse, you'll blister your tires. You start dropping pace at an incredible rate. You can easily be losing a second a lap sometimes. And that is really what it's going to play down to, I think, for the GT3s and the GT4s. Both cars are not immune from tire blistering. GT4s are a little bit more gentle, I'd say, because of the slower speeds they go through the corners. But for Wolf, he's got to manage to break the tires slowly while also keeping Martin Lawrence behind him, and that's not an easy feat. I'm interested to see as well in the race what happens to some of the BMWs, especially at the start. Now, the reason I say that, the front three, your two Audis and a Lamborghini, they're the NA V10s. They are nice, they're punchy off the line. Every single BMW in this field is a turbo car, which will be suffering in this heat. There's just no cool air for them to cool down in the intercoolers. So I think in the race as well, they're really going to struggle with power.
Some good points, and something we'll have to keep in mind over the course of the race. You can kind of see, looking at the timing tower that isn't actually on the screen at the moment, but we have two Audis on the front row, then it's followed by a Lamborghini, then it's a chain of BMWs, a Lamborghini in the mix, and then another few BMWs. So it seems like a lot of the BMWs congregating in the mid-pack of the top 10 this time, and maybe that's where they'll stay for the rest of the race. Maybe they'll drop further down. We'll have to see how all that plays out. And, well, what about all the GT4s as well? So much to discuss, and plenty of different manufacturer battles going on here. Of course, Mercedes, is what Christopher Verstappen is in, and he's trying to challenge for that championship going into the final round. But we have a Porsche and a BMW on the front row of the grid, and an Alpine in the mix as well in the top 5. So you know, plenty up for grabs. Don't forget Bart Matcher in his Audi. Maybe that will come into play a bit better in the race than it did during qualifying. We'll have to find out. But as they start to line up 2 by 2, this is it, the penultimate round of the season for Wolf Matuszka. This is now the most important race of the season. Can wrap it up, can go into the final round at Spa, nice and comfy if he gets the job done here today. May need other things to go his way with Jarkko Torvenen's result, but he can only focus on what he can do right here, right now. Taking pole position was just the very first step. The win and fastest lap, we'll have to see if that can come. Here we go then, 60 minutes of racing around Circuit Barcelona, Catalunya here tonight. In the scorching sun is live, and we have a couple of drive-through penalties for the GT4 cars towards the back end of the grid. It's both the BMW M GT4s that have picked up drive-through penalties on the start. And is this Martin Lawrence having a look down towards turn 1? No, he's going to just slot in ahead of Jarkko Torvenen and make sure that he doesn't get that place away from him. Oh, we've got Andy Boardman off in the background, and we've got a couple of GT3s as well. That's Carlos Calatian that has been caught up in that as well, and I think Benjamin Schumann is also one of the unfortunate parties. Bart Matcher's got a drive-through penalty for being out of position on the race start, the same as the 2 BMW GT4s, and it's all kicked off down at turn 1, Ryan Mawson.
It looks like I saw one of the BMWs, I think it was the Connection Lost racing car, or one of them, going wide, and then, yeah, some accidents that happened behind. I wonder if that was avoiding action from one of the BMWs. Had seen it happening in the mirror and decided to take to the runoff. We'll have to have a look at some point. I'm sure the stewards as well will be on that to see who was at fault and who might be getting a bit of a penalty on the head. But yeah, GT4s have... the Peter Henneberg, the 77, Klaus Neering, and Bart Matcher. Now, I would have understood it if it was more everyone's at the back, but that's kind of spread out in the grid, and that is Nico Kumpu off in the background.
Kumpu exit stage left, it would seem, towards the end of the back straight, and whether that was aided or completely on their own, we don't know. Here's Bart Matcher, one of the cars with that drive-through penalty for being out of position on the start. The likes of Peter Henneberg and Klaus Neering will also have to serve that as well, and they're not going to be too happy about that. But either way, the GT4 class has had a bit of drama in it, and the GT3 class a bit of drama in it, but both for different reasons. Doesn't look like there's been any contact between any of the GT4s on the start. It definitely looks like there was quite a scrap down at GT3. Here is a little bit of a replay of the GT4 start. Bit of scraping and bumping of doors there, Ryan Mawson, but I don't think it's too bad, and all of them seem to get through that little GT3 accident safely.
Well, especially when you fall wide into turn 1 at Barcelona, you know, that is always quite the recipe for a little bit of bumping and rubbing his racing. But yeah, as he says, very clean otherwise, and just managing to slot through the GT3 accidents. Looking back now to what has become the back of the grid, here's Billy Octane. Manages to get through all of those accidents, and is trying to chase down Ethan Scott in the lone Mercedes. And this is also this is the 818 who's trying to run away from everyone in this field.
Trying to run away from everyone in the field, and we'll have to see how they get on with that. Wolf Matuszka at the moment in the 25, and he finds himself 0.4 of a second in front of Martin Lawrence. Wolf hasn't been able to put the foot down just yet, but it is early days, only the second lap of the race. As you can see, Billy Octane getting very, very friendly with the back of Ethan Scott's Mercedes there, almost pushing him through the corner at that stage, but just tips off, doesn't want to get involved in an incident, not this early in the race anyway. And Billy Octane will continue his suit. We saw a good strategy from Billy Octane at the Nürburgring. Here's a bit of a replay of Carlos Calatian. You can see him in the Lamborghini in the middle, the blue Lamborghini, and what happens here? Oh, just got sandwiched really, couldn't see the accident ahead of him, had no time to react, and nowhere to go really, as Will Stevenson puts the fastest lap of the race on lap 2.
Well, there you go. It's not fastest lap so far for Wolf Matuszka. It's a 108 BMW. Could that be a sign of things to come? Well, we'll have to wait and see. Or if the mid-engines are just trying to still warm up. But yeah, it looks like just nowhere to go. There was a car rejoining, sandwiched in the middle, and sometimes that is just how the race start plays out. A couple of people I have noticed already diving into the pit lane to try and, I think, fix some damage and get back out there. But I believe, just gonna look on my timing screen. Yeah, they have it's Andy Boardman and Schumann. They have both taken their pit stops, and it has been classified as taken. So early pit stop strategy for those two cars.
And both of those cars were involved in the accident down towards turn 2, so it makes sense for them to get that pit stop out of the way on the very first lap. They had the opportunity to do so and possibly repair any damage. Schumann, unfortunately, though, has to stop and go 30 for speeding in the pit lane, so their day goes from bad to worse, and they'll have to come back in and serve that at some point within the next couple of laps. Meanwhile, we're on the rear wing of Mikael Sundström, looking back at the moment, who sits in 3rd place. Of course, Peter Henneberg still has to serve that drive-through penalty, so he will be moved up into 2nd place once that happens, and Calandrino is about 2.6 seconds down the road. So Mikael Sundström at the moment, not looking like the little Alpine has the pace to perhaps challenge the likes of Fabio Calandrino, but maybe, just maybe, has the pace to keep that 2nd place as Christopher Verstappen starts to work his way through the field now as well. He started down in 5th and has had a little bit of a struggle as Ethan Scott, you're just seeing there. Is this a little bit of a replay? What happened with Ethan Scott? Andreas Sarka, who just was into the back of them. Or is that Gegli Gaspar? I can never tell with either of these cars if it's Gegli Gaspar or Andreas Sarka. I believe it was Andreas Sarka in the 818, and he has given that position back. So, unfortunately, for the 818, getting involved in an incident but giving it back is a very good sign. And Klaus Neering and Peter Henneberg have not served their drive-through penalties on the start, Ryan Mawson, and coming onto the next lap, the race control system has disqualified the two BMWs.
Well, there you go. Both the cars that were looking incredibly strong, the 77 of Peter Henneberg have been disqualified. It is kind of you do have to keep your eye on it. Sometimes we've talked to drivers who haven't even noticed that they've been given a drive-through and were saved by their strategy when they've realised that they have a penalty. But yeah, the two BMWs have been disqualified from this race, and I think Bart Matcher was seen taking his. So there you go. Bart Matcher down in the 404. But you were mentioning about Mikael Sundström. Maybe doesn't have the pace for a win. Certainly has the pace, though, for an incredibly good finish. And once again, calm and consistent is Mikael in that little Alpine. Every single time you think this car cannot do this well in the race, he just does. He worms his way through the field and just sits there very calmly.
And Mikael Sundström now going to be under pressure from Christopher Verstappen. We're looking on the back of Jarkko Toivonen's car, and you can see Will Stevenson, who has now lost his fastest lap of the race to Wolf Matuszka. The BMW will be looking to find its way through, and they really have dropped off the back, haven't they? John Aracer almost 3 seconds back from the top 4 at this point. They really have broken away at the front, and it is almost looking like it's going to be a breakaway between top 4 as well, as Wolf Matuszka and Martin Lawrence look like they are starting to create a bit of a gap, and that will be a bit of a hurry up for Will Stevenson. He will see that gap getting bigger and bigger, and he'll want to get past Jarkko Toivonen because he'll want to try and keep with those two cars, if at all possible, over the course of this race.
Yeah, if at all possible, but firstly, you've got to pass Jarkko Toivonen, which, this driver is no stranger to having to defend and, being incredibly well on the brakes. You're never going to outbrake Jarkko Toivonen, and we've seen that in a couple of rounds, and I think most drivers have realised that that is not going to happen for you. Eric Vons, this was a driver who very early on in the season looked like he was going to take the fight to Wolf Matuszka. He's now having to take the fight to John Aracer to try and get around him to get back up to the front of this grid. You can see tucking right under the wing of the 699, basically very much inspecting the diffuser of that car and just trying to find anywhere by. Looks to the inside and the final chicane, and there's contact.
Not the contact you want to see either, and for Marek Vons, that is not a good situation either, because it's given up a place to Thibaut Roskam in the process. So not only did he get caught up with John Aracer and have to slow down to give that place back, that allowed Thibaut Roskam to get through, and now Nico Kumpu is just behind as well, although Marek Vons looks very, very keen to take that place back with immediate effect, and it looks like he is going to have a look down on the inside into turn 1. Will he hold it on the outside of turn 2? Looks like he will, and he'll take that place back. Stewards will have to have a look into a few of the incidents that have happened in these first couple of laps, but it is a bit scrappy out there at the moment, Ryan Wilson.
It's a bit scrappy, and I think part of that as well is due to, you know, the incredibly close racing, how close people were in qualifying, but also the track temperature. Sometimes when you start to push, you know, that hard, realize that your car might start to handle, you know, differently to how you've practiced it. And some of these moves do look like people are, you know, they're seeing the gaps open up and realizing that they can't afford to dilly-dally. But Barcelona is a hard track to pass. Like I said, we've seen what happens if you try and pass in that final chicane. It doesn't really work. Turn 1 and turn 2 are an option, but otherwise a lot of places are single file.
A lot of places are single file, and we're on board with Christopher Verstappen still trying to find a way past on the nearly on pace Alpine of Mikael Sundstrom, the brisk baguettes car, as I'm going to be calling it for the remainder of the season. Has a little caution sign on the back of that car. You probably can't read it from here though, but it says baguettes on board, I can assure you of that much. As Mikael Sundstrom has taken on, you know, full embrace of the French memes when it comes to the little Alpine. And look at Jordan Daly in the background as well there, just lurking around, and he's caught up to these two, so Jordan Daly could get himself in the mix, and Mikael Sundstrom probably wants that. In fact, he wants Jordan Daly to get in the mix and get under Christopher Verstappen's skin, because there's every chance that they could slow each other down. Just give him that extra breathing room that he needs right now.
And that's what I thought might happen in the race, that the Mercedes have started to come back alive, you know, in a race pace from the BMWs. Looking with the cars, you know, that would have separated them would have been the two GT4 BMWs, but they have since been disqualified due to a track. Well, it was an out-of-grid position at the start, and they didn't serve their drive-throughs, so that's why those two cars disappeared. And looking back to the front, Jaakko Toivonen still managing to keep back William Stevenson, but that gap is slowly but surely increasing between the lead two. We're now up to 1.9 seconds between Toivonen and Martin Lawrence.
And Martin Lawrence, in fact, has taken that fastest lap of the race away from Wolf Matuszka, and, well, you could see that he's definitely keeping pace with Wolf Matuszka, only half a second between the two of them at this stage, so Martin Lawrence doing a very, very good job to keep pace, and thing could be said for Will Stevenson keeping pace with Jaakko Toivonen. There is Nicholas Nordqvist going through on Andreas Vikosland, and the Alpine getting a move done on the Porsche. Moving up into 20th place, Andreas Vikosland, who is in the top 10 for the GT4 class at the moment, sitting inside the top 10 at least for the race result positions right now. And you can see Andy Boardman on the timing tower there. He's got to get past the likes of Fabio Calandrino before he can then eventually go down and chase one of the GT3 cars, and he has got past Calandrino. And here is Christopher Verstappen on the inside to have a look on Mikael Sundstrom. They're both going to go wide, and onto the gravel. We'll have to see what the stewards make of that, but Jordan Daly's going to say thank you very much, gentlemen. I will go through, I will pick up the pieces, and he's going to gain 2 places out of 1. And is that Christopher Verstappen just slowing down to give the place back to Mikael Sundstrom, thinking maybe that he went too deep, he forced him off the track, and he needs to give that place back?
I believe it was. You can see the indicator on, waited for Mikael to pass, but now this is putting right into the jaws of Nicholas Nordqvist. The little Alpine has the inside line, it has the more corner speed, the 747 trying to hang it around the outside. They're still side by side coming into the final sector. There's a little bit more contact. The 747 is enforced wide. Is it going to be Vikosland looking through? No, it will not be. They fall back in line. The 747, yeah, a minor mistake has now dropped him another place, but more importantly, it's dropped him quite a lot of time to Jordan Daly.
It has dropped him a lot of time, and Jordan Daly just taking advantage there, and you can see Christopher Verstappen probably just felt that, you know, maybe braked a bit too late, didn't expect Mikael to try and hang it around the outside, but the little Alpine did, and unfortunately forced him off onto the gravel, gave the position back though, and the stewards will look kindly upon that one. They may still hand out a penalty, of course, because it was Mikael Sundström that did lose out a position to Jordan Daly. So we'll have to see what gets made of that. Carlos Calatier, by the way, has a 5-second penalty added to his race time at the moment, or for when he comes into the pit stops, and that is apparently for excessive contact on lap 1, turn 10 with the number 23. And the number 23, let's give this is a bit of a race replay here, as you can see coming down, and yep, I think that would count as excessive contact, as a bit of a dive bomb. And unfortunately, the 23 no longer in the race, but either way, Carlos Calatier does have to pay the price for that dive bomb and contact, and it's a 5-second penalty. Meanwhile, Christopher Verstappen now has to pay the price for the mistake he made earlier in the race, and well, he was trying to get past one Alpine, now he's got to get past 2 to get back into the podium places.
The little Alpines are quite annoying and irritating to pass because they just have much more corner speed. Look at the drive out of the corner for the little 21. They just, you know, they're so planted, these little, almost rear-engined, I'd call them, cars. All turbo engines, they're little buzz boxes that weigh probably about as much as a crisp packet, I think. They are just incredibly light, incredibly difficult car to really wind your head around for how you have to drive them. They drive entirely different to any other GT4 car, and any GT3 you can't really, you know, you can't really make a correlation between any car. It's just how the Alpine drives. But for both of these drivers, they have definitely got it. The 747 just about avoids the Alpine, trying to get later and later and later on the brakes, and now that has cost Christopher Verstappen another place in the form of the 35 from Vic Osland. I think that Mercedes might now just be suffering a little bit of how to put it. I think the problem might be that he needs to cool off, as well as the temperature needs to cool off.
Yeah, and well, for the likes of Wolf Matuszka, things have cooled off at least a bit on the front of the challenge for the race lead. Martin Lawrence has dropped to 1.7 seconds back, so there's obviously been a mistake for Martin Lawrence in there somewhere. Wasn't on the previous lap by the looks of it, set a very similar lap time to Wolf Matuszka, and it's not on this lap either. He's only down by about 0.3 of a second, so Martin Lawrence has made a mistake somewhere, and that's cost him a chunk of time that he'll have to try and regain now. I can also tell you that Andros Sarka has been given a drive-through penalty for the contact he had with Ethan Scott earlier in the race. The number 34, we saw a replay of that one. That was on lap 3 down at turn 10. That's the hairpin at the end of the back straight. And I think there's also a couple more warnings and avoidable contacts coming out for a couple of other cars. The 777 has got a warning for contact with the 699. And that was Marek Vons who got that warning, and that was for contact with John Araser. So a couple of warnings coming out now, but I think that they will start to sort themselves out now. And our broadcaster just noticing that the likes of Wolf Matuszka and Martin Lawrence set identical lap times on their previous time by 1:45.357 for both of them. And when it comes to the best laps, in fact, Martin Lawrence is only quicker than Wolf Matuszka by about 0.08 of a second, and very, very close between the two of them at the moment. But it is Wolf Matuszka that leads at the moment by 1.7 seconds from Martin Lawrence, as we have a look at Rudy Philmalter, who is chasing down Billy Octane right now.
And I mean, that 800ths could be all to do with the slipstream. Obviously, Martin Lawrence was behind Wolf Matuszka, had that tiny little bit of a toe through the down the straight, but otherwise, it seems that those drivers are basically identically matched. And yeah, Rudy Philmalter trying to gain back onto the back of Billy Octane. It looked like Billy Octane for a while was fighting the 96 of the Audi, but has dropped off the back of that pack and trying to run his own race. It is interesting to see some of the BMWs seem to be suffering a little bit of pace drop. I'm just wondering if it's the hot temperatures. They're just not akin to, you know, this kind of temperature. It also doesn't really seem to me like a track that is very brand new BMW suited.
Definitely seems like a track that they're possibly struggling at more than others, as really Phil Morton just trying to chase down Billy Octane at this time. Billy Octane's worked up himself into the top 10 places, as we see Paul Stevenson now 1.4 seconds off of Jarkko Torvinen, so just starting to drop back now as these guys are working their way through some of the GT4 traffic. Obviously plenty of GT4 traffic to work their way through, but some of the other GT4 cars have actually come in and served their pit stops. Christopher Verstappen has decided to take his pit stop early, so has Juraj Fenchek, Matthew Kingston Lee, and Bart Matcher after having served that drive-through penalty. Nicholas Norquist also in the pit lane, and so is Mikael Sundstrom. I can only assume, Ryan Wilson, that the two Alpines have come into the pit lane because they've seen Christopher Verstappen dip into the pit lane and they say, whoa there, we're not going to let you undercut us that easy.
Well, yeah, the little Alpines, if you've got someone behind, you can very much keep them there. But yeah, I think that was very much a strategy call. You think you can't let the other driver do that, as that was a bit of a scary moment from the onboard of Roskam in the 96. Going round the outside was Marek Vons, and I believe that was Vic Osland. Poor Porsche just in the middle of everybody. You're trying to have your own line, and you're swarmed by GT3 cars. So we're very much in the thick of the GT4 traffic for all these drivers now. And we've said that time and time again, that can very much play into races.
It's a very, very big part of the races, and they have to manage them here. What the multi-class racing is all about. Meanwhile, though, Will Stevenson has worked his way back up to Jarkko Torvinen. It was 1.4 seconds between the two of them. Now, a lot less than 1.4 seconds. It says 0.4 of a second at the moment on the timing board. I'm believing that that is a bit smaller than that now. We'll have that confirmed as we cross the line here. It goes from one... Well, no, in fact, it is still 0.4 of a second, so my eyes deceive me more than I think. And Will Stevenson still plenty close. But look at this, Ryan Wilson. Even with the slipstream that Will Stevenson has, the straight line speed on that Lamborghini is not to be underestimated.
No, and that's what I was thinking, that the BMWs are kind of struggling for straight line speed. I mean, they are more of an aero-based car, but I think just with the hot temperatures and the hot track temperature, I think they're just struggling that little bit more, as the 96, the Roskam, still is trying to catch up to the likes of Marek Vons. And I think, is that just in front, that is Nico Kumpu, who might actually start coming into this battle. Will that give an opportunity for the 96 to get by?
So Nico Kumpu then, at the moment, sitting in 6th place, but Marek Vons right now hunting them down, trying to find a way through, trying to work their way up the order. Marek Vons qualified down in 10th place, remember. It's not where we're used to seeing the 777 after he's challenged Wolf Matuszka for 2 race wins so far this season and came very, very close on both of those occasions. But he has definitely struggled out here at Barcelona, and Nico Kumpu keeping him at bay at the moment. How much longer that will last, we do not know.
We do not know indeed, and the 96, you see in the background, really trying to maximize it on the brakes, just everything what we can, as we have a race replay from our P2, Martin Lawrence. This might, who I'm telling, be a mistake. He lost quite a lot of time. I think the replay might not just show it. I think it was a little bit further back than that, unless it's on this corner.
Already looks like it lost a lot of time, doesn't it?
Yeah, compared to Wolf in the front. There you go, another small mistake from Martin Lawrence that last lap, I think was at 46.
So half a second slower for Martin Lawrence on that particular lap, and lost a lot of time to Wolf Matuszka, and well, Billy Octane having to go a bit defensive from the South African Rudy Philwalter. And Billy Octane going defensive, not one of the easiest drivers to pass. Won't give you too much room when it comes to defending. Loves to go door to door, and there's quite a few drivers on this grid. Wouldn't you say, Ryan, that they do love to get very door to door? And look at the message on the back of that car. I just want to race. Pretty much sums up Billy Octane, don't you think? just wants to be here, just wants to enjoy himself, and well, I'm sure he's enjoying himself at the moment.
Yeah, very much so. Billy Octane, one of the drivers, he will quite happily go for that move, and you can't just pass and then expect to be given the place as one of the GT4 traffic. Billy's having to go around the outside, and Rudy Fillmore swaps to the inside, and that is the type of thing that we see where that can very much decide battles and decide races. It's just who manages the traffic better. If anything, it looks like Rudy actually came out slightly on top from that exchange and has gained a tiny bit more time right up to the back of Billy Octane now. But as he says, once you've caught up to Billy, what exactly do you do then?
Yeah, once you've caught up to him, you've got to get past him. And, well, Nicholas Nordquist at the moment putting a bit of pressure on Jordan Daly. So Jordan Daly, despite getting past the likes of Mikhail Sundstrom after the incident that he had with Christopher Verstappen, has lost time, and that has allowed Mikhail Sundstrom to jump back ahead of him. And you also have to keep in mind that Juraj Fencek pitting early has allowed him to come out ahead of Mikhail Sundstrom as well. So the 107 has jumped a couple of people by taking that early pit stop, and Jordan Daly, by, well, not taking an earlier pit stop, has lost out a bit, and has the likes of Nicholas Nordquist just in behind them as well. Although Jordan Daly will be plenty comfortable with the pace that he's seen from his kart so far in this race, and he'll think that he has more than enough pace to catch up to the back of Mikhail Sundstrom and find their way through. Marek Vons, meanwhile, still hunting down Nico Kumpu.
Yeah, Rudy Fillmore has dropped off of the back of them, so that must have something's happened to the South African. We can see it just about in the background there, the green car. But yeah, I thought that these two were a little bit closer. Obviously, got past, and Marek Vons has just taken off really, and yeah, trying to find any way around Nico Kumpu. But in match machinery, it's incredibly difficult because you don't have any kind of advantage. You don't have any kind of difference in handling or braking performance or power or anything versus the driver you're versing. It is entirely up to the setup of the car and how comfortable they are in it. And Marek Vons is not exactly no slouch, but we've also seen some great racing from Nico Kumpu this season.
Marek Vons into the pit lane, has decided that can't get past Nico Kumpu at this time and is just bleeding time away from the race, so decides to come into the pits and try and go for that undercut strategy that we've seen a few other drivers employ already out here in the race. We're not even halfway through, and a significant portion of drivers opting for that early pit stop. We'll have to see how it all works out for them. Andy Boardman, who was caught up in the incident on the very first lap, he's actually managed to jump ahead of Carlos Colatiad and Thibaut Roskam, despite the, little incident that made him spin around and caused him to pit early and maybe repair some of that damage. So that's worked out quite nice for him, and he'll be hoping that he can gain a few more places by the end of this race. Looks like another fight back race for Andy Boardman. Got turned around at the first lap. It was at the coming out of the second corner, wasn't it, at the Nürburgring by Harry Conway. So two races back to back in which Andy Boardman will have to try and fight his way back up through the field, but doing a very, very good job of it at the Nürburgring, and looking to do a very good job here in Barcelona as well, as Wolf Matuszka looking to put a lap on Carlos Colatiad and now Bart Matcher, and just gets a bit sketchy in these parts where you have a GT3 trying to lap a GT4, and then the leader all of a sudden turns up. Oh, and this is... Oh, that is Bart Matcher and Wolf Matuszka getting a bit physical with each other in the final chicane. And, well, Wolf, a little bit of a flash of dissatisfaction, I think, there, Ryan.
Yeah, a bit of a 2-into-1 doesn't go. We might have a quick race replay of that. You can see big GT3 looks to the inside, space there, but going over the curbs, it's just a bit of touchy-feely, and GT3s, GT4s is one of the hardest places to catch up to someone, is in that final sector.
Definitely a struggle for sure, and well, that'll be something that Martin Lawrence will be pretty happy about, is Wolf Matuszka getting a bit held up by his teammate in the GT4 car. Bart Matcher just getting a bit physical with Wolf Matuszka means that Martin Lawrence has been able to cut that gap down a bit, although it is still 1.9 seconds between the two Audis. So plenty of time for Martin Lawrence to still claw back, and he has to really get those laps down. Meanwhile, back down here in 7th and 8th place, Rudy Phil Malta still battling it out with Billy Octane and still pushing to get past him. Interesting though here, Ryan, not opting to come into the pit lane and try and undercut Billy Octane like we've seen a few other drivers do today.
Oh, and both of these drivers, you know, they've been running very similar lap times, both in the 46s, and you know, it's just tense here and there where one driver has a better lap, the other driver doesn't. I'm wondering though if Rudy is actually trying to use Billy as a little bit of a tow. Both of these drivers are kind of in the middle of the pack, in the middle of their own little battle. You can see Rudy Philmont starting to try to duke out Billy Octane. That ain't gonna work. But I'm wondering if he just wants to, you know, minimize the time loss and might actually come out ahead of some of the other cars that have already pitted.
Maybe so. We'll have to see how that strategy works out. And oh, here is Christopher Verstappen and Nicholas Nordqvist again. And well, is that Christopher Verstappen trying to go for a move on the outside and just not quite pulling it off? We can see Nicholas Nordqvist going to the inside line, defending, you know, exactly where the Alpine wants to put its car. There goes Christopher Verstappen, but it looks like it's much too late on the brakes. Nicholas Nordqvist comes back, and look how nimble the Alpine is on the outside line of the corner. Just gets it done nicely and tucked in for turn 3 and remains ahead. And Christopher Verstappen, who was hoping to maybe, you know, wrap up a championship here today, or at least go into the final round with maybe a 30 to 40 point gap, it's not going his way at the moment, is it, Ryan?
Oh, and the little Alpine of Nordqvist, I would have said that car was on a very much compromised line. He gave Verstappen incredible amounts of space, obviously not knowing where that driver is going to rejoin. Still manages to just drive around. The corner speed that these little cars can, you know, give when it's required is incredible. But the 21's late on the brakes. Will this put Christopher Verstappen up? He's going to put his nose up the inside, and it's going to be a long way around the outside again into the final sector. This is where the Alpine loves it. It has the corner speed, it has the grip for the inside, and now once again you're back into single file. You can't really pass here, although we've seen some drivers try, and I bet you that the Alpine's going to have a little bit of a gap again coming out onto the straight. This time though, the Mercedes is closer. Will we finally see the power of this Mercedes get by the 21?
You almost feel like, for Christopher Verstappen's sake, it's better to not try and go around the outside of the corner just coming off from the hairpin on the back straight. You often wonder if it's maybe better he just sits in behind Nicholas Nordqvist and just gets as close as possible to get the best run out of the final corner. Doesn't have the ability to have a look down the inside, and now has to move out of the way for some of the GT3 traffic, so that works in Nicholas Nordqvist's favour, because look at where Nicholas Nordqvist is. He can just move a bit wide and let all of them through, or almost all of them, not quite. Martin Lawrence still has to get through. But Christopher Verstappen will be a bit frustrated, because that slowed down his progress to try and make his way up towards the likes of Nicholas Nordqvist. And now, as Martin Lawrence goes through, you could just see there what was a few tenths of a second. Bit bigger than that now between the two of them, and Nicholas Nordqvist doing a fantastic job of keeping Christopher Verstappen behind. And Mikael Sundstrom will be loving this, because he's obviously with a very, you know, big outside hope of still challenging for the championship. The best thing that he can hope for right now is that Christopher Verstappen finishes, you know, a few places behind him. That's exactly what's going on, and well, he's got one of his fellow manufacturer teammates to thank for it.
Yeah, he's will be absolutely thanking the fellow Alpines. Just keep them behind, as we see. That is the 899. That is the Mikael Sundstrom car in the background as the leaders and Carlos Calation pass through. Just managing to, once again, another place where you don't really lose much time letting people through at that corner, and then you can kind of have a little bit of a tow down the straights, which is anything for the Alpine that's you know, better than nothing. But yeah, a great battle happening, and also Jordan Daly, who came kind of out of nowhere, will also be loving it, because while those two are battling behind, he's just happily driving, matching Sundstrom's pace.
Yeah, just matching Sundstrom's pace at the moment. And here's Will Stevenson into the pit lane. Decides that he wants to get his pit stop done now. Of course, he was chasing down Jarkko Torvinen, dropped off a bit and now maybe thinks if he comes in here, gets himself some clean air, can maybe go for the undercut strategy. Here is Ethan Scott coming into the pit lane. We got a little bit of a replay. Ooh, very, very late. That's it. Coming in, didn't hit the wall, but unorthodox pit entry. I would definitely say not the ideal line into the pit lane for sure. As Will Stevenson comes out of the pit lane, and Ryan Mawson. It's what you didn't want to see. It's a stop and go 30. It's speeding in pit lane for the 108.
Yep, and after the update, the pit limits, you know, they are incredibly stringent now. If you are speeding, you will get slapped with the stop and go 30. And Barcelona as well here, it's a track where you can quite easily miss the pit line. You come down, you know, with that wall on your left. You have to actually be looking out for where is the pit limit board and where is the line on the floor. Almost done it a few times myself. So for the connection lost racing team, not a day that they or not a penalty that they required. The 108 BMW was looking really, really strong as the leading BMW that had pitted, but as Andreas Vikosland comes in as well for one of the GT4s, I think one of the few remainders that have yet to pit.
Yes, because it's only Fabio Calandrino that is yet to pit now in GT4, with Andreas Vikosland coming into the pit lane. Here's a replay with Ethan Scott, and is this with John Eraser by the looks of it? Down the inside we go. It is John Eraser, I'm being told, and a very nice move down the inside from John Eraser, although Ethan Scott didn't really defend that one too much.
I think Ethan Scott might just be trying to, well, one, you've got to think, you know, about certain battles, are they worth it? But also the Mercedes, if he has changed the tyres on that car, the Mercedes does take some time to get back up to speed and back up to race pace. You don't really want to be pushing Mercedes hard as soon as you've come out the pits, because it is a bit of a recipe for disaster.
And well, would you look at this, Ryan Wilson? It's the 21 and the 747 at it again. Although the difference here is now, I mean, you could probably confirm this for me or not, Ryan Wilson. Is Nicholas Norquist getting closer and closer to Jordan Daly? Because I swear that pink and blue Triple R Mercedes GT4 was not as close as it looks now on Christopher Verstappen's front splitter. It definitely looks like they're a lot closer. As John Eraser and Richard Whittle getting very close to each other as Fabio Calandrino, the only leading GT4, only GT4 to not pit, sorry, and is the leading GT4, just having to stay out of the way of all that. That could have been very, very bad, very, very quickly, but John Eraser makes the move done down the inside through on turns 1 and 2, and very, very nicely done from the Swiss.
Bit of a heart-skipping moment there for the poor GT4 Porsche as two GT3 cars come flying by you side by side. But yeah, I think for Jordan Daly, I've been watching the lap times and they have been slowly but surely coming down. As actually, there you go, the 747, they've finally got past the 21.
So Christopher Verstappen finally makes their way past Nicholas Norquist, and there it is, it's a mistake. Nicholas Norquist goes slightly wide, goes onto the anti-cut curb on the exit of the hairpin, and then this is it. The outside line finally pays off for Christopher Verstappen as the Alpine just doesn't have the grunt to get around the corner quicker, even though it has the inside line. And there we go, the 747 has finally made its way past, but now further up ahead, it's facing equal machinery in Jordan Daly, and Jordan Daly's not going to be keen to move out of the way. He sits 2.1 seconds back from Mikael Sundstrom right now, who is sitting in that third place position.
Very much so. As we swap back to Ethan Scott, seeing the BMW go through and thinks, I can also do this as well, right on the back of Richard Whittle. You can see the big Mercedes right in the mirror. I think if you were going to be anywhere, this is where you wanted to be with the Mercedes. You've got a long straight, maybe not exactly the best run coming out, but can the slipstream do anything? Will the Mercedes look to the inside? He's gaining, and here we go. I think this is going to be a look. Will it be a dive? 34 comes onto the brakes. But actually, the BMW is slightly better on them.
Slightly better, and Ethan Scott won't get it that easily as Richard Whittle holds on to that place for now. And 34 will have to try again, see if it can get past. Just looking up towards the front, Martin Lawrence has dropped off from Wolf Matuszka again. The gap is now 3.9 seconds, so whilst Martin Lawrence is trying to keep Wolf as honest as he can, Wolf Matuszka doing his best to pull away from the 171. Doing a pretty good job of it as well, although mistakes can happen in the pit stops, and that time could easily disappear down the drain, and that's what Martin Lawrence has to remember. He has to keep himself close and keep a chance alive, and that's what he's doing right now. Meanwhile, a bit further back is Richard Whittle and Ethan Scott going at it right here, and this is for 9th and 10th position at the moment. John Aracer, our broadcaster, just saying, did John Aracer turn on the nitro at any point in the last few laps? Made those 2 positions really, really easily in the space of a very small amount of time, and has disappeared up the road as well. So John Aracer, maybe Ryan Mawson, he's found something in this car late in the race.
Yeah, perhaps, you know, just learned one or two corners that really would struggle with before, and just learned how to do them. And also looking in the background of this battle, while Ethan Scott still tries to get as close as he can to the back of Richard Whittle, try and get, you know, anything down the straight. That's Andy Boardman in the 69, who's been on a charge back through the field from being spun around at the lap 1 incident. He's actually, you know, almost half a second a lap quicker at the moment.
Yeah, Andy Boardman going very, very fast and wanting to get those places back. And here we go as well in the background as well. You might have just seen it. Rudy Philmotter and Debort Roskam are also getting very, very close for a battle. So definitely some things going on. And our broadcaster just pointing out to us that the last lap that John Aracer did was only about 0.2 of a second off of the lead. But
it's 0.2 of a second off the fastest lap.
Oh, 0.2 of a second off the fastest lap then. Well, there we go. John Aracer putting the pedal down and really, really making up that time at the moment and flying right now. That's what they need to do if they're going to try and gain some places back. There are cars that do still need to pit in front of him. So if he can, you know, really, really get this car moving up towards the back end, he can really, really start to gain those places when the pit stops happen. We still have 6 GT3s that need to come into the pit lane. That is Wolf Matuszka, our leader, Martin Lawrence and Jarkko Torvinen, who round out the podium right now. And then Nico Kumpu, Billy Octane and Andres Sarka, who sit 4th, 5th and 7th. And also detailing that he had a very long pit stop, the likes of John Aracer. So it could be Ryan Mawson. Fresh set of slicks on that car?
Well, it could be a fresh set of slicks and also maybe a tiny bit of damage repair. We saw John Aracer's car has been in the walls a little bit. The left side is actually still carrying some of the scratches you can see there as it comes on the camera. It's very easy to tell with the black paint job on that car. But yeah, possibly some damage repair that was hampering his performance for all this time. He just was waiting until the pit stop decided that it wasn't worth the, you know, the undercut attempt for repair. And actually we're going to see, I think, a replay of what happened to the damage. There you go. It's actually a tangle up with a fellow BMW. I think that's the Connection Lost Racing car.
There's Marek Vons, yep. And I think we saw that earlier in the race, in fact. And oh, here is another, just a little bit of contact, but don't think that would have done much to his car at that point in time. Probably the other contact that we were looking at that was the more significant one. But either way, John Aracer absolutely flying. 4.3 seconds right now at the moment. So yeah, so only about 4.4 seconds now actually off the back of Andres Sarka, who does still have to pit. So 20 seconds off the back of Marek Vons, who has pitted. But keeping in mind that Billy Octane and Nico Kumpu still need to pit, so there definitely could be some places to be gained for John Aracer on them.
Yeah, so John Aracer's managed to find the go juice and managing to get through. And Andy Boardman has, speaking of people getting through, Andy Boardman has managed to pass Scott. The 34 Mercedes has dropped off a little bit. And actually looking, that was a mistake by Richard Whittle coming out onto the last corner. And this might be time for Andy Boardman. The BMW ahead, match machinery, but he will be slower down the straight. You can see the 69 gaining and gaining. Will it be a look up to the inside? I have a feeling it might be.
Andy Boardman having a look now on Richard Whittle as Ethan Scott has just dropped off the back, and you can actually see that Rudy Philmilton and Thibaut Roscam catching up to these two as well. Andy Boardman now going to have a look on the outside line, and he's off the track, in fact, as Bart Matcher flashes his lights. He's not too happy about that. That gives Andy Boardman the chance to go around the outside of Richard Whittle and won't get the move done on that particular corner, but that allows him to come back onto the inside line and take the position. But Ryan Mawson, I think the stewards are going to ask the question if that overtake should count, considering that Andy Boardman was way off the track to give him the opportunity to make that move.
Yeah, that shall be one that I think may have a bit of scrutiny around it. And yeah, I mean, Andy has continued on. Obviously, he thinks that move was correct, as all the GT3 cars behind now scuttle around. I think that's Vic Osland again in the 35 that it is. It's going to be a difficult one, that is. I think he will definitely pick up a track limit for that, at minimum, I would say. But yeah, see what the stewards say about that one.
Yeah, we will have to see what the stewards have to say about that one. Meanwhile, our race leader with just under 15 minutes to go is looking good, 4.3 seconds up in the lead at the moment. Doesn't have the fastest lap on this occasion, but I'm sure he won't worry about it, as Jarkko Torvenen's back in third place. And I think this is enough to give Wolf Matuszka that championship win. Currently has a 56-point lead. He needs 68 by the time we leave here tonight, and I think, judging by first to third, it might be enough. I can't quite remember if it is 12 or 13 points. It might be enough for him to exit with the likes of a championship in hand by end of race tonight, but we will verify that in just a bit. Either way, Wolf Matuszka keeps going, and he still has that mandatory pit stop to make, so his mind at the moment just set on getting this race done, do it lap by lap, and that's the best way to take it, Ryan Mawson. When you're out here and you're on your own and you're looking kind of comfortable, it's easy for your mind to wander and think about other things, and that's when mistakes come about. But Wolf Matuszka, very, very professional, very, very committed in the way he drives, and very focused as well to stop himself from making this on a regular basis.
And also, I think part of that is the car that he drives. You know, the Audi, you do have to have full concentration to really get the most out of this car. As we see some GT4s, I think this might become part of the battle between Roscam and Ethan Scott. And what I'm being told as well is that Roscam has the new tyres. We don't think that Ethan Scott does in the 34. Will this play into the Audi could potentially go around the outside? Looks at the inside of the 555, but it is just about closed off, and in the head as well. Ethan Scott almost leaving the road.
Matthew Kingston Lee just unfortunately being the cork in the bottle, and not intentionally either. It's just bad, wrong place at the wrong time. Rudy Philmilton did get past Ethan Scott, by the way, so he is now hot on the heels of Richard Whittle in the 957. Rudy Philmilton's on new tyres, we're being told. And oh, that was sketchy, looking for a gap that was ever decreasing, or maybe didn't even exist in the first place. We'll get a bit of a better view here down towards the first corner. Yeah, I mean, that gap was never there, was it, Ryan Mawson? And well, fortunately, Rudy Philmilton bailed out of it before it became an incident.
The door might have been there when you went for the move, but it was a door that was always going to close. Well avoided, though, you know, to get that car onto the grass and not cause an incident at all. And actually, it hasn't lost him too much time, really, to the back of Richard Whittle, as actually Richard Whittle goes wide coming down. This will give Rudy Philmilton the inside for 2 corners, and actually, I think that the 957 might have actually let off there a little bit.
Well, maybe thinking with the pace that the 99 is showing at the moment, just let them through, don't hold themselves up any longer. We are in the closing stages of the races. You would expect drivers to get a bit more elbows out, but the pace that Rudy Philmilton is showing, maybe just doesn't want to risk an incident, take the result that you have here and go on towards the final round and see what you can make of it. Meanwhile, Bart Matcher at the moment, he is the last place point scorer in the GT4 class right now, and he's trying to make it so that he isn't the last point scorer in the GT4 class. He's right on the heels of Andreas Vikosland here, 0.8 of a second between them, and it's going to be Porsche versus Audi to decide who's going to get the not last and last award. The Martin Lawrence just make his way through on his teammate Bart Matcher.
Nice pair of matching cars as the small GT4 Audi and its much bigger brother in the GT3 getting by. But yeah, it's been an up and down race really for the 404. Obviously had that drive through, and the Audi just not looking quite as strong as we maybe expected it. You know, this car won, I believe it was Monza, was it not? It just
Paul Ricard.
Paul Ricard, there you go. And it just looked incredibly strong there. It's just not the track and not the day for the 404, sadly.
Yeah, and you have to remember as well, you mentioned the brakes issue. Well, Bart Matcher said he did have an issue with the brakes at the first round at Imola. And then when we went to Paul Ricard, the conditions were much, much cooler. It was very early in the morning at Paul Ricard. And I think the ambient was somewhere kind of 15 or something like that. So the track was quite cool as well. So I think maybe those conditions helped a lot with the conservation of the brakes for Bart Matcher in his GT4, maybe helped the performance of the brakes as well for his car. And just, well, we're on the opposite end of the spectrum here at Barcelona, 38 degrees track temperature, 32 ambient, and just not able to get the best out of that car performance-wise right now. They bought Roscam on the back of Ethan Scott, who being held up because there's GT4 cars everywhere at the moment for these guys, Ryan.
There's Jordan Daly, there's Christopher Verstappen, there's just everyone has clumped together in this last sector. And actually looking further up ahead, there's even a couple more GT4 cars. I think that is the little Alpine just about the 899 going onto the straight, and Thibaut Roscam picking the smart move, let the GT4 wash out wide. That is naturally what they will always want to do. And I think the Audi's just praying that he can get by Jordan Daly before the first corner. But here we go, Ethan Scott trying to once again get around Richard Whittle. He's late on the brakes. He will have the line, and there you go, cleared before turn one.
Very, very nicely done. And Martin Lawrence is into the pit lane, going to get that pit stop done and dusted. And here is Rudy Philvolter on the fresh tyres, and not on fresh tyres is Andy Boardman. And look at the BMW, the 99. It's going to try and go all the way around the outside. Andy Boardman's not going to give it up easily, but that will turn into the inside line. And what a difference, Ryan Wilson, between tyres, new tyres and no new tyres here in these conditions. And Rudy Philvolter closed down on Andy Boardman, and anyone who's seen Formula One in the last few years would have been thinking, ooh, that could have been an accident waiting to happen. We saw two Mercedes collide at that particular braking point not too long ago in the past, but nothing going on here between these two. Some good hard racing, late braking there from Rudy Philvolter, but look at the grip he has on the new tyres, the acceleration as well. And one of those things, Andy Boardman, with how early he pitted, he couldn't really opt for a new set of fresh tyres because it wouldn't have benefited him later on in the race. But Rudy Philvolter, who had the benefit of going longer into the race, could swap those tyres around at the halfway point or towards the end and get the big benefit of that fresh rubber.
Yeah, I mean, Andy, you saw, tried to defend it the best that he could, but it was just always going to happen with the absolute night and day difference of the tyres. So that's what I was saying, what I thought might happen. These tyres will basically be melted by now. They will have got blisters on the left side at a minimum. I wouldn't be surprised if you actually see light blistering on most of the corners with the temperatures that we're experiencing, and just that change between them. That is the night and day difference. But for Thibaut Roscam, still trying to get round Richard Whittle. He's seen that it can be done. He has the fresher tyres, but he's just struggling to get around the 957 in front.
They're struggling to get around him as well. And I'm being told that the Boardman outside off-track overtake has been looked into. Not sure if we're going to get clarification. And racing incident 69 does not gain a clear advantage by leaving the track when overtaking the GT4, and the stewards have decided that is not worth punishing. So Andy Boardman has got away with that one. And whether you agree with it or not, the stewards have decided he did not gain a significant enough advantage. And I suppose that's the important thing to keep in mind, isn't it, Ryan Wilson? You know, how much of an advantage did he gain versus not gain? The stewards have clearly decided he didn't gain enough, or didn't gain any, rather, to, you know, cause them any cause for concern.
And the game will have likely given him a track limit, which is what they also factored in and said this would, you know, should be sufficient enough, because if you're already on 2, possibly 3, it means that that driver will drive even more careful, because you don't want a drive through at the late stages of the race, and we've seen no one is safe from that.
Definitely not, as here we go. We can see Richard Whittle just closing now in the slipstream, but he's going to have to go around the outside if he's going to get the move done on Ethan Scott. But look how much later on the brakes the BMW is than the Mercedes, and he's going to go around the outside of turn 1, turn to the inside of turn 2. Is he going to keep it for turn 3? Yes, he will, and here comes the Audi of Thibaut Roskam, who's trying to make their way around the outside as well, and that car is on new tyres. The grip is incredible for the Audi. Makes its way through, and Calandrino's just sitting here in the Porsche thinking, please don't hit me, boys. I'm just trying to enjoy my lead at the moment. I'm doing well. I've got a 1.3 second lead. Don't cost me any more than this, but they all get it done nice and clean. And Thibaut Roskam will now put their focus on the likes of Richard Whittle just up ahead of them. Meanwhile, Jordan Daly and Christopher Verstappen getting very, very close to each other indeed. Jordan Daly has the inside line coming out of the corner, but now it's going to turn to the inside line for Christopher Verstappen. He's going to push him right up towards the inside, and all this contact between the two of them. Daly just forced to take off into the gravel, and Verstappen is lifting to give the place up for the second time today, Ryan Wilson. Verstappen thinks he pushed someone out wide and gives the place up to show that he doesn't want to take it like that.
Yeah, just the that car looking, you know, quite unsettled. I think with how hard that the 747 has been pushing, it's just, you know, the tires have now started to go off, and when you're battling that close, just the tiniest bit of throttle input can be the absolute, you know, between getting the move done and seeing what happened there. But yeah, a lot of drivers in the last few closing minutes of the race. 3 minutes and 30 left to go. All the moves are starting to come out now, as there you go. Wolf Matuszka, our race leader, has finally come down pit road.
Wolf deciding that he doesn't want to do another lap and potentially risk getting caught in traffic and maybe be forced into the situation that I think Nico Kumpu was in at Paul Ricard, where they missed the pit stop window by 2 seconds. Wolf Matuszka doesn't want to end up in that situation, so comes into the pit lane, will stop on their marks, take as much fuel as they need, and then be back on their way. They have the benefit of being right towards the end of the pit lane. They won't have too much of a run once they get their stop and get back up going. They are running again out onto the track, and yep, Martin Lawrence not going to have a chance to try and take the lead of the race in the closing stages here. So Wolf Matuszka has definitely done a very, very good job, and now just needs to run that car to the end of the race, and time is running out for Thibaut Roskam to get a move done on Richard Whittle.
Yeah, has managed to leave Ethan Scott behind, the 34, so he doesn't have to worry about being attacked from behind. It's now all eyes forward for the 96. He has the slightly fresher tyres than the 957. It's just trying to find a place to pass. We've seen a lot of drivers now actually opting to take around the outside to turn 1. We've seen what this Audi can do grip-wise. If he can position his car where he can do that again, I think that is going to be the Audi's best shot of getting around this BMW.
Drive-through penalty for Carlos Calatiud. That's in the car number 30. That is for track limits, unfortunately. So the number 30's day, which hasn't been particularly great, gets a bit worse. And here comes Thibaut Roskam now in the slipstream, closing on the inside line. Going to have a move on the inside. Will they be able to hold it? No. Forced to the outside line of turn 2. But look at the grip. Look at the drive from the Audi on the fresh tyres. Makes it through and onto the inside line of turn 3. And that's exactly how Thibaut Roskam wanted to get the move done. And they will be grateful that the tyres have paid off towards the end of the race. and it has given them that position over Richard Woodcourt. It puts them up into the top 10 on what should be the last couple of laps of the race.
Yeah, they just had to position the car there. That Audi, it did look, like the pace was there. You're kind of being pace dictated by the car in front. He placed his car exactly where he wanted it, even though you had to go around the outside of what is essentially turn two. It gave him the inside for turn three, and just new tires versus these completely melted, blistered old tires. There's no real comparison for that. And there you go. But looking at the back of what will be the lead of GT4, Svenček goes for an almighty dive coming on to the last lap. And Calandrino manages to keep it going through the gravel and back off as we watch again. I think it was just incredibly late on the brakes.
That was very much a do-or-die move by the looks of it for Juraj Svenček, and I'm not entirely sure he had to make it. He has another lap, in fact. They will get to the point where they could do another lap, but can he catch back up to Calandrino enough? Christopher Verstappen's been given a 5-second penalty, by the way. That is for 2 warnings for the same thing. He obviously pushed Mikael Sundstrom off, gave the position back earlier in the race, and then did the exact same thing to Jordan Daly on a different corner. So 2 warnings equals a 5-second penalty, but he's going to get the move done on Jordan Daly. A small bit of contact, but I don't think it was significant enough to affect the outcome. Will get the move done, but now needs to find 5 seconds in the space of a lap, or might not even get the chance to do so, because there is the race leader. I don't think Wolf will get past either of these 2. And I think seeing possibly the penalty that is on Christopher Verstappen, won't want to overtake Jordan Daly just to not rob him of that chance to take it. Although, will he rob Jordan Daly? No, Jordan Daly tries to block him off, but no, Wolf Patushka, he's going to cross the line to take the win here. Jordan Daly absolutely frustrated. He won't get the chance to take that back off of Christopher Verstappen. The 5-second penalty won't matter in the end. Juraj Svenček is way off track coming out of turn 3, but I don't think it's going to benefit him. Nico Kumpu in 4th place, no, 5th place in fact. He's been passed by Marek Vons right at the end, although the 5-second penalty for Vons should give that place back to Nico Kumpu right at the end, and it looks like Billy Octane will cross the line in 6th as well. And Ryan Mawson, it all got a bit chaotic on the final lap.
Everyone trying to push, as hard as we can, those do-or-die moments. Even seeing the 107 of Svenček in the background, he was just basically foot welded to the floor, praying that he could do anything to catch up, but it was just not happening. The tyres of the car, they're just too tired. And for the 34 as well, Ethan Scott, this drive-through that we had right at the end, that was for track limits. So this driver was obviously balancing on the edge for quite a while and will come home in 12th, but that drive-through will be converted to a plus 32nd on his total race time. So it's actually, I think, it might, looking at where the 818 is, might just lose him a position.
Well, Fabio Calandrino will come across the line, and he will be the winner this time around. It's the 2nd win of the season for the 120 of Fabio Calandrino in the GT4 class here at the penultimate round of the season. Svenček will not have the chance to retake it, but look at this. It is Mikael Sundstrom, 2nd podium of the season for the 899, the little Alpine that could. Brice Baguette's nearly on pace, will cross the line, and they'll finish ahead of Christopher Verstappen. They will keep that chance alive for a title going into the final round. And my word, it has been an exciting race. I think Wolf Patushka, though, with that win and the 3rd place for Jarkko Torvinen, that is just enough to clinch the championship for him. If not, going into the final round, Wolf Patushka would need a DNF, and Jarkko Torvinen would need not only a win, but fastest lap or pole position as well.
Yeah, so it's pretty much wrapped up. Or even if Wolf does appear, there is pretty much all pressure has been taken off the Pink Performance. Audi just has to turn up and score some points, even if he wants to. So a great drive in challenging conditions in a track that has been gone from hot to even hotter, and then in the race, just, hotter still. Great day. And for the GT4 category, what a hectic last about 5 minutes, 10 minutes, I'd say.
Yeah, it all got a bit chaotic towards the end, and well, Wolf Matishka with the win in the end. Martin Lawrence second, and Jarko Torvanen third. That is your top three for the GT3 class, and then in GT4, Kalandrino, Schwencik, and Sundstrom rounds it out. So a lot of stuff to digest, and of course, a lot of stuff to take in. But before all of that, we have a bit of news about the next Monday Championship. It's not quite done yet, but the next Monday Championship will be coming out sooner rather than later. And in fact, sign-ups for it start tonight at 10 o'clock is when sign-ups will go live for the new season. The Asia Masters is the championship that we will be continuing on from the Euro Masters, and as you can probably guess, it is Asian cars only. So it'll be the Nissan GTR, the Lexus, and the Honda NSX Evo that we have competing across 4 different circuits. We'll be going to Zandvoort, Donington, Laguna Seca, and Suzuka for a small 4-round series in some of ACC's finest Japanese cars. And we'll have to see who can crown themselves Asia Masters. Pre-qualifying starts tonight at the Hungaroring, so if you're interested in that, you can get yourself signed up from 10 p.m. GMT tonight. That'll be 11 p.m. CET, and you can come and race with us next season on a Monday night. More racing action for you throughout the week. On Wednesday, we will have the Diamond Drive Cup the next round. They have a 90-minute special halfway through the championship at Silverstone. Then on Thursday, they'll be going to Snetterton in the GT4 Sprint Series. Very, very exciting action, I'm sure, going out at a very tight and twisty circuit indeed. The GT3 Friday Championship will be at Snetterton as well, following on the same calendar with the GT4s. We'll have to see how all of the GT3 cars can handle a tight and twisty Snetterton. Night Owl will not be here again for the second week running, and that is because we have the 8 hours of Brands Hatch on the weekend as well. So no Night Owl for the second time, but it will be back on the following weekend. We can assure you of that much. And we will look forward as well to the season finale for the Euro Masters out at the iconic Spa-Francorchamps, one of the best places to end a championship. And it's where the Euro Masters finished its first championship. It's where it will finish its second championship. And well, it's going to be an interesting one indeed. What will happen in the GT4 class? Will Wolf Batushka have anything to say about it towards the end? Will he just show up, do his thing, or will someone else maybe claim third different winner this season? Well, it's been a great stream, and big thank you to everyone at home for watching today. Big thank you to our partners, Race Department, AK Informatica, Driver61, Fanatec, and Sim Racing GP. If you're odds and sim racing news, Race Department is the place to go. AK Informatica, we post all of our races on their servers. They're a fantastic service, and check out more of them on their website. Driver61, if you want to win like Wolf Matushka, get access to the Sim Racing Academy for just $10, and you can save 25% with the discount code in the description. Fanatec, you know plenty about them already. One of the best makers of sim racing equipment, and now at an affordable price with the new CSL DD series as well. Use our affiliate link to support RCI at no additional cost. And Sim Racing GP, if you're looking for communities on AC, Race Room, and possibly iRacing in the future, then maybe check out Sim Racing GP, or start a community of your own someday and get some friends in. From myself, from Ryan Mawson, from Stewie Hellman behind the cameras, all the stewards and everyone else here at RCI, thank you very much for watching this evening. We look forward to seeing you in a week's time for the season finale at Spa.
And we will see you in Belgium.